What is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Today we're going to take a look in this episode at the iPhone 16 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro in a size comparison. Now keep in mind, one of the main changes here is that we do go up to 6.3 from 6.1, and that's mostly coming in the way of those bezels you see around the border of these phones. However, if you take a look at the general footprint, they're about the same. Let's go ahead and take a look at them side by side here. And you're going to see that this phone generally has the same shape and feel. Although what I am noticing is that the iPhone 16 Pro year over year goes up just a little bit on the height. So that actually makes the reach to the top a little bit bigger for the iPhone 16 Pro. You can see it right there on that angle. That's a good look. And I'll show you that I'm leveled up here. Let me level up. It's just a little bit, just a small amount of difference there, but that will make a small amount of difference when you're reaching up to the top. Now, what's nice about these is that they're both the same exact thickness. So the iPhone 16 Pro and the 15 Pro come in at 8.3 millimeters thick. Now, not to get all technical, but what that essentially means is that holding the phone will not feel any thicker on either. If we take a look at the size of the camera lenses, they also retain that same camera lens size on both of them. So that is something to keep in mind. Also, these camera lenses do match up with the body over here. So the rings around here match up with the side of the phone right there. I also want to check the buttons here, the button placement, see if they're in basically the same location. And no, they're not. So as we line these up, you're going to see on the right side, ergonomically, the 15 Pro is going to be slightly better because that button comes down just a little bit. So over here on the right side, that higher button placement, if you have a smaller hand, anytime the button goes higher, even if it's that small, if your hand is small, that's going to be slightly more uncomfortable. So while you are getting a bigger screen, it is kind of interesting versus like maybe going to a too large iPhone 16 Pro Max. A 15 Pro is still more comfortable ergonomically, if you ask me. So if we take it off to the left side of the 15 Pro and the 16 Pro, you can see it's the same business on this side. We do have button placements that are slightly, ever so slightly higher on the iPhone 16 Pro. Also, if you take a close look, the size of the action button is actually a little bit bigger on the 16 Pro. So they actually increased the size of that button. It's smaller on the 15 Pro. That's a little detail that I just actually picked up right now when we're analyzing these phones. At the bottom, you can see the width of the phones from side to side is nearly exactly the same. And you'll see USB-Cs and the same amount of punch holes for the microphone and for the speakers down there. Torque screws in the same locations. So that's pretty much the same. Now the thickness and size of the cameras are pretty much hanging off the body at about that same thickness. And you'll see the camera capture button right there. But that thickness is still going to make these phones, if you place them on a table, rock quite a bit. So let's go ahead and take a look at this right here in the size, and you'll see if you touch them in the top corner, they will rock a bit right there. So they're definitely got some camera bumps that make these phones kind of hang like on the top corners over there. So that's definitely something that hasn't changed. Dynamic island wise though, that's also the same exact shape and size on both phones. But because you have thinner bezels, I feel like it feels like a slightly more spacious display on the iPhone 16 Pro. I do think people think that the 6.3 is so much more spacious, some people think this, than the 6.1, but it's actually not that much bigger, but it's still definitely more comfortable to hold than like the super large iPhone 16 Pro Max. Let's take a look at their weight now. All right, when we're talking about the size and ergonomics and which one is going to feel better for you, you got to keep in mind it's not only that width of the phone, the bezels, it's also the weight. So if you take a look here at the iPhone, this is the 16 Pro, it comes right in at 199 grams. So that's actually up from previously on the iPhone 15 Pro, which was a lighter phone. That's pushing nearly 200 grams, which for this size of a phone is a little bit heavy, I would say. Let's go over here to this phone and we'll take a look, and you'll see this phone comes in at 189. It's rated at 187, so we're pretty much on the money there. But that 10-gram difference actually makes the phone feel substantially more compact and light in the hand, especially if you're using it without a case. So if you like that heft, you'll like the iPhone 16 Pro. If you want more compact nature, you'll want to stick with your 15 Pro or pick up a 15 Pro over the iPhone 16 Pro. Keep in mind, they both support Apple Intelligence on both of these Pro devices with 8 gigs of RAM. All right, so let's get a closer look at some content consumption on these displays. So mainly what you're gonna see is that as we scroll down, there's not really, this is the same text size, there's not really any extra content being shown in something like this on either phone over here. So you'll see not a massive difference. You cannot really make out any more content just because you go to a 6.3. What you will notice though is that the width of the panel makes it feel just a little more spacious for looking at a photo or something like that. It's very small, but it's something to keep in mind. So I do think that if you want that slight millimeter of extra, or that slight screen to body ratio to be a little bit better, I think you will like this upgrade to the iPhone 16 Pro coming from a 15 Pro or even a 14 Pro. All right, now when it comes to watching a video, this is where I think the 16 Pro is definitely a nice little update over a 6.1 inch. And keep in mind, a lot of what I'm talking about here, I will talk about and showcase in a 16 versus the 16 Pro, but this is gonna be similar. So you can see right here, if we get a little bit closer right there, you'll see it does give you a little bit more space when watching a YouTube video or some media on the phone. Let's go ahead and click play on both. This is one of my previous size videos up in the top, and then my comparison from earlier today. Let's go ahead and pinch in right there. And when we pinch in, you'll see we have a little bit more height, a little bit more width. So I think if you are holding the phone and watching video in full screen or even in non-full screen, this is probably the best area of the upgrade in size. It's just media consumption and gaming on the phone. So if you do a lot of this, I do think the 6.3 is a nice little update, but it's not like a drastic change. It's just a little bit of a change. If you have a 6.1 and you want more of a drastic change, consider a 6.7 inch iPhone 16 Plus, iPhone 15 Pro Max, or iPhone 16 Pro Max if you want a bigger change from a 6.1 inch iPhone, because this change is small, but definitely nice, but it's not going to be like it's worth all this money to get rid of your 15 Pro at this current point right now, just for this amount of space difference. But it definitely is a nice new size that they have offered comparatively since they've been doing 6.1 for such a long time. The last area I want to talk about before we wrap this up is the side to side. Anytime you increase, I'm a right handy, so I got to put this on this side. Anytime you increase the size of the width, it gets more uncomfortable side to side. So while those bezels do seem a little bit thicker, it actually made it easier to reach a side to side on the iPhone 16 or 15 Pro and any other 6.1. So that's why I say the base 16 is the most comfortable ergonomically this year out of all the iPhones. You'll see over here, the iPhone 16 Pro, still not super hard if you got a big hand, but that little bit is going to make it just a little bit harder to reach up at the top and all that stuff. So it's still like this part, like this part, this still feels like a reach, still feels like a big phone, and even bigger and harder than before. Also, if you are trying, let's just drop this. Also, if you are trying to do like a one-handed experience, the lighter weight of the iPhone 15 Pro along with the less width is going to be more comfortable. And that's why I say the 16 is probably the best. The base 16 if you want the most comfortable this year, because that's not only super light, it's lighter than the 15 Pro. It also has that same less width with the 6.1. So that's going to wrap it up here. I hope you got a really good idea between the 6.3 and the 6.1 inch iPhone 15 Pro. This would also apply to some of the other iPhones that are 6.1, but I'm going to do some of those comparisons in size as well in case that's the exact phone you want to upgrade. Let me know which one you prefer, the 6.3, 6.1, 6.9, or 6.7 inch iPhone down below in the comments. Any other size comparisons you want to see, let me know down below in the comments, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.